All systems go. Cleared for takeoff.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Ship It Nation MMA show, the second ever MMA show. I'm live with my guy Title here to break it all down. We had 14 fights, a couple got canceled, but down to 12. Fingers crossed. Let's hope we stay at the 12 number, because 12 in terms of MMA slates, much better than 11, much better than 10. It doesn't seem like much, but every fight you lose, the odds of having a unique lineup kind of goes down a little bit. We were close last week. I think the content was very spot on for the most part. I was able to almost get myself into the winner's circle. If it wasn't for the headbutt fight that got canceled. But it's always a fun sweat. If you are not somebody that typically plays MMA DFS, you're missing out. Let me tell you. I mean, someone that wasn't a big MMA guy as of 3 years ago, it's honestly probably one of my favorite sports for DFS. I play weekly. You can get into it for cheap too. I mean, a lot of cheap contests. I mean, it's just a really, really fun sweat. But yeah, we're going to break down all the fights and see what we can find in terms of the winners, and hopefully have a lot of success. The content already starting to drop over here at Ship It Nation, and Title Tom will finish that up this evening, tomorrow afternoon. So Title, how's it going? How's everything on your end over there?
Yeah, excited for another week of MMA. Last week was a pay-per-view, but I mentioned right away, it was one of the worst pay-per-views there was as far as name value and that, but it's also for DFS, like you mentioned. 11 fights is very tough. 12 fights is fine. 13 fights good. 14 fights good. 11 fights is tough, though. Less than half the fights. Less than half, like 11 fights, 6 people are on the winner. Usually need 6 winners. You don't need as big as scores, stuff like that. So this card, a lot better. Yeah, we did lose 2 Roundy, Barcelos, Miles Johns would have been a solid fight. Lost August Sumagulov too. That fight plans on being next week. They're waiting on like USADA test. So 12 fights, but it's a pretty good card. One favorite in the tier of his own, Arman Tsarukyan minus 1,000. Other than that, though, a lot of pretty closely lined fights. Which means you can leave a little salary, I think. I think multiple dogs will come through. Some 2 fights right now where the cheaper fighters are the favorites as well. So I think we do see a little concentrated ownership. I'm excited for this one. Last week, I thought it was going to be really hard to have a solo shit, 5 dupes or less. I didn't even play. I'm usually MME. I max 18, 20, whatever it is. I'll be back there this week. Did the 555 last week. Didn't think it was a great large field card. Do think this one is a pretty good large field card. But yeah, talking last week, definitely a couple misses on my end. Aiden Zahabi. I mean, I'll always take stands at 20 entry and less. Doesn't always work out. Some of mine didn't last week. But for you, Hoop, man, your core, 3 for 3, all 3 winners on the optimal. Like you said, Hoop's very humble over here. But if it wasn't for Imavov, Chris Curtis, and that headbutt and all that, Hoop is shipping the 555 for 50K. So that was hurtful. You definitely were on point last week. Me, not as much, but yeah, I'm here. Plenty more L's in the future. I'm always here. I put in the work, though. Every fight is broken down right now, but I want to wait till after this show, get all the rankings, which is done as well. Cores, all of that. I want to put it all up on the site at once after the show. So yeah, it'll be up sometime after, maybe an hour or something. I got a little stuff to finish up. Hopefully you run a little better, though, this week, Coop, with that flash.
Yeah, I was just honored. You reached out to me. What day was it? I think it was Friday, maybe after the show, and said, "Hey, Hoop, you want to put your core up alongside mine?" And I was honored to be a part of the MMA content last week. And yeah, it did work out well. Those were like my 3 highest owned guys in my core, and then obviously played the team in the 555. And yeah, I mean, coulda, shoulda, woulda type stuff. I don't really like doing that. I don't like going back on things. And if this guy does that, I win. But yeah, I mean, it seemed pretty clear if that fight continues. I think I only needed like 50 points, and he was smashing them.
He was well on his way. 35 halfway through the second, decision win or finish. Volume was there.
Yeah. So
you never know, though. Hey, you never know. Yeah. Maybe it was a malarkey situation. Exactly.
One punch. That's the beauty of the sport. One punch and it's over. So, a couple weeks in a row where I feel like I kind of got robbed. The Kai Kara France week where, he clearly won that fight. Had some high stakes teams that needed him to win. I would have shot up, but whatever. We'll get some breaks coming my way at some point, I'm sure, to balance it all out. That's how it works in this industry. In terms of the content that you get over at Ship It Nation on the MMA side, first thing is the slate info, which is a free piece, just kind of breaks down each fight. Gives you the pricing on DraftKings, FanDuel, the odds, inside the distance, and what weight class. So you can access that without a membership. And then we have our core report, which is titles core, and I guess now hoops core for now. It's 1 for 1, so I guess my spot is pretty secure there for now. DK Cash, FanDuel, main GPP, and then FanDuel Cash. The one that I like the most is the tier rankings. Where titles going through and saying, all right, guys, 8,600 and above, I rank them. These are my favorite 4 in order. 8,500 to 7,700. These are my next 4 ranked in order. And then the cheapies ranked in order. And then the slate plan, which will give you guys a little more of a fight type breakdown. The key notes about each fight and how we think, or how title thinks it plays out. So at Ship It Nation, a membership gets you access to everything. Not only MMA, you get access to MLB, you get access to PGA Showdown, and then obviously NFL is right around the corner, and that product is going to be big time for us. So looking forward to that. But if you're not a member, get on over now. $59 for the month, $599 annually, and we would love to have you over here at Ship It Nation. A lot of success. And again, we're going to continue to improve and add on to our product along the way. The big addition so far has obviously been our MMA content, which we're thrilled to offer. So get on over there, check it out. The video is free, so we appreciate a like. You hit the like, and then also subscribe. We're pushing towards the 1,500 subscriber number, which is huge because we just launched this channel literally like 2 weeks ago. So you guys have done a great job building this up. And the bigger we get, the more free shows and free content that we are going to offer moving forward. Let's get into some fight by fight breakdown. Names look a little more friendly for me this week. I struggled last week, not going to lie, but this week a little more friendly. First one, though, is a little rough. Modestus Bukauskas versus Zach Pauga.
Pauga,
Bukauskas favored -188. He's 9K on DraftKings. Pauga 7.2K. This fight is +120 to finish inside the distance. So, pretty close to a pick 'em, I'd say, in terms of whether it goes there or it does finish inside the distance. What do we have on this one here? 9K is a big boy price tag. We got Tsarukyan, who you talked about. He's 9.8K, but he's -1,000. I'm glad they put that price tag up there at 9.8K because he seems like the clear play. So how does that impact guys in this range, like this 9K price range? What are you doing here in this fight?
Yeah, 9.8K, I'm glad they did that as well, but it could have been like 10.3K. I still think Arman Tsarukyan at 9.8K comes in as the highest owned fighter. I think he is north of 50% ownership too. You look at the main event, 8,200, 8K. Again, a lot of short dogs on this card. Like you're looking first fight right here, Zach Pauga. It's only like a +150 dog, +160, got up to 170 in some spots, but talking a +160 dog at 7,200, that is not much at all. So I do think dogs come through on this card, and I do think that is, and with the main event pricing too, I do think that leads Arman Tsarukyan -1,000, -350 inside the distance to be very high owned. But yeah, jumping back to this card, you mentioned +120. This fight is to finish. +150 to finish is the worst finishing odds on this slate. So +120, it's hard to find too many confident fades. Like I'm playing 150 as always. I break down the slate plan, 20 entries or less. Again, the $3 20 entry max contest is good. It fits a lot of people's bankroll. Not everyone's can play 150. So you have to make more fades in that one. But for 150, I might play every fighter except Joaquim Silva tomorrow in my 150. I think you can make a case for a lot of them. However, if I fade another guy, it might be Modestus Bukauskas right here at 9K. I'm not going to get to any of them in 20 entries or less. Don't love him in 150. At 9K, the dude's a primary striker. Don't think he's a very good striker anyway. I don't think he's very good he had a first stint in the UFC, fought Michailidis. There was the door gets pulled behind the guy. The fight gets stopped at the first round. Takes an awful teep kick to the knee, tears up his whole knee, so he's out for a little while. Now he's back in the UFC. Took a fight on short notice last time out. He's a big dog, came through, but man, the other dude looked awful. Bukauskas, low volume striker, 3.37 significant strikes per minute, does not grapple. He sits at distance. His striking is fine, but he pretty much needs a round 1 knockout, or I don't think he's really on the optimal. Even if it gets to round 2, he gets his knockout, let's say 70 points. Let's say he gets a knockdown at 80. I don't love the volume. I mean, you could still be looking at a less than 100 points in a second round knockout for Bukauskas. So there's a lot more paths where he doesn't make it than he does. He's going to be low owned. He gets you different if you want to go that way. You can always make a case for that in DFS. But, man, I don't love the upside here. 9K, you need a big boy score. I don't think he does it. I'm going to take the dog in Zach Pauga too. Again, I don't love his upside, so I'm not trying to jam him in. Even with dogs, I'm trying to chase a little upside on this card. But Zach Pauga, again, I don't think he's very good. Was a football player, was on like the Houston Texans roster, the practice squad roster, all of that. He's a boring fighter. Let's grind it up, try and push a guy. Just last fight against Jordan Wright, I think he's going to do the same thing. Push it against the cage, grind on him, wear on him, maybe try and get a couple takedowns, probably not have much success. Don't sit at range with them, make it dirty. But they do add control time, even against the clinch, against the fence. When it is standing, you do get control time points for that, which can add up a little bit. And again, 7,200, like, do I want 80 points? Do I want 75, even 70? No, but I will sign up for it. I mean, I'll take a dog win at any point, really. So give me a little Pauga. Again, I don't love his upside. No Bukauskas for me, though. I'll take the dog or pass in this one, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, just based on what you said so far in that fight, I mean, this seems like a high-scoring, high upside type of card. Like, we need guys that are going to score big boy fantasy points, and especially in the 9K price range. If you're playing the guy at 9K, I mean, you got to, I think, in my head, when I'm building my teams, what are the odds of him getting like 105? Because I think that's a good benchmark for these slates. And based on what you just said there, I don't know if that's the case with this guy, so he could be a fade for me. With the underdog, though, it's like even on high-scoring cards, like an 80 or a 75 can be on the optimal. So for me personally, when I build my team, it's going to be Pauga, 7.2K. And really, it's not a bad number when you look at the odds. Like you said, he's plus 150 in this fight. That's not bad for a $7,200 fighter. So that's where I'll most likely be going in this fight. Got 11 more to go. Ronnie Lawrence facing off with Daniel Argueta. Lawrence, very similar to the last fight, minus 188. He's only 8,700 compared to the 9K guy last time out. We said what? So this is the fight that you said plus 150. So the longest odds to finish inside the distance. Without knowing much about either of these guys, if I'm playing them, or especially if I'm playing Lawrence, I need him to be like a takedown guy. I need him to be a guy that's going to be wrestling and looking to get this fight to the mat. Is that who Lawrence is, or is it not?
Yeah, it definitely is who Ronnie Lawrence is. You won't find many. You won't find many guys in the UFC that likes to chain takedowns like Ronnie Lawrence. 7.03 takedowns per 15 minutes. Ronnie Lawrence's average. It's nice. Yeah, it's 7.03 takedowns. Go look at his DK scores. They're big boys for sure. He'll chain takedowns for 15 minutes. He has good cardio. Doesn't even have the best top control either, which allows. I mean, these guys. Lower weight classes, a lot of fights in the lower weight classes, no heavyweight fights. I think just one light heavyweight fight, maybe two light heavyweight fights, but a lot of small guys on this card, and they can get back up and they get back, dump on the mat, and the takedowns can rack up. Ronnie Lawrence definitely does that. He's coming off a really tough loss. I mean, he had all the hype in the world. Won on Contender Series, wins his first 2 UFC fights, then runs into Kakramanov, and man, that dude is a complete stud. Somehow got cut from the UFC. I don't know what is going on, but did what Ronnie Lawrence does to others. That's exactly what he did to him, coming off a tough performance, but definitely gets a big step down in competition from that fight. However, Daniel Argueta, this guy has some wrestling chops in his own right. Shout out UW Parkside, a smaller school in Wisconsin. He did wrestle there collegiately. Came into the UFC, took a fight on short notice against Damon Jackson, lost by unanimous decision, pretty much was in a backpack a lot of that fight. But man, he gave a good account of himself. He was landing more damage. Damon Jackson really just held him for 15 minutes. He took it up a weight class on short notice. So I was impressed there. Last fight as well, pretty impressed. 4 minutes of takedown, 10 minutes of control time. So Ronnie Lawrence is a wrestler, but Dan Argueta is a wrestler too. So it's going to hit the mat. There's going to be a lot of scrambles, possible for reversals. This is the fight most likely to go to decision at plus 150. But first of all, plus 150, very close, especially when you're talking MMA and stuff. Like plus 150 means the fight could easily finish. No one's going to be surprised. Those odds aren't wide. Yeah. And for this, even if it goes 15 minutes, like that's how most Ronnie Lawrence fight goes. But you're fine with that when you get wrestlers that just keep taking over with good cardio. Sign me up for this fight. I definitely will have plenty. Ronnie Lawrence has the highest ceiling on the slate just with the nature he fights. But I don't think Argueta is going to be a layover by any means. I do expect him to get taken over. I do think he gets up, though. His cardio is pretty impressive at range. When it's on the feet, I think that's pretty 50-50. Dan Argueta is a definite live dog. And if he wins this fight, just with the nature of how Ronnie Lawrence fights and the pressure and pace he pushes, or if Argueta wins, he's going to be on the optimal, I think. Whether he knocks him out, whether he pieces him up on the feet, whether he's just a bit better wrestler, whether Ronnie Lawrence's cardio falls off a cliff. Like, just sign me up for anyone Ronnie Lawrence fights against because their ceiling is so high. Two wrestlers. I absolutely love this fight. Man, when it comes to making a pick in this one, like I want to go with Argueta in this one. I just don't know. Ronnie Lawrence is so hard to pick against for me because I know he has 15 minutes of cardio. I know he's going to wrestle. Yes, he did lose the last fight. His chin a little more questionable. He did get knocked down a couple times by Minor Martinez in the third round. I'll side slightly with Ronnie Lawrence, but when it comes to like my 150 exposures, I could have more Argueta for that $1,200 savings. It does go a long way. Do think he's going to be lower owned too. Ronnie Lawrence, one of the more chalky fighters on the slate, I expect. So yeah, when it comes to it, I'll probably be compared to the field similar on both guys, maybe a little more Argueta than Ronnie Lawrence, but it's a fight I'll have a lot of. Anytime someone averages over 7 takedowns per 15 minutes, you want some exposure to this one.
Man, the price, 8,700 for the upside seems nice. And then, the fight's supposed to go the distance. You get the underdog at 7,500 in a high pace fight. I mean, for me, as it stands now without building any teams, I'll definitely have heavy exposure to both these guys.
Like Rami just said, the loser could still score 67 DK points, easily. I think both guys get takedowns, which means some could be reversals, high pace, light guys, easily could see 6, which it's not going to be on the winner, but just shows how high the floor and ceiling is of that fight.
Well, if you get everything else right and you have, a $7,500 guy that's, gets you 60 or 70, you're at least going to make some money. You're not losing that entry.
You'll not complain.
One way to look at it.
Yeah.
Definitely not. All right. Next fight, we have Teresa Bleda versus Gabriela Fernandez. Bleda, a minus 250 favorite, which is the tied for the second biggest on this card. It is basically a pick'em to finish inside the distance, plus 110. That's a pick'em number. But it's a big price tag on Bleda. $9,500. Fernandez only 6,700. Again, with Tsarukyan on this slate at 9,800 minus 1,000. I'm assuming it's probably hard to get to Bleda, but talk to me about this one. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, no, everything you said is how I'm looking at it too. Like 9,500. This is in the women's division too. Man, we just saw it again last week. Miranda Maverick, one of the biggest favorites on the card, just absolutely gets schooled. Wasn't a better striker. Didn't have better cardio. Wasn't the better.
Smoked.
It was not better in close. No, it was not better in any area. And you're talking a minus 350 favorite. And I literally come on this show and I'm talking like, when am I going to learn my lesson? Every single women's fight, it should just be dog or pass at this point when it's that big. Like, how often do you see a men's fighter, a minus 350 favorite, literally have no advantage in any single area? Like, you don't see it. Not every day. It seems like it happens a lot more in women's MMA. So I don't know if it's just as much recency bias. It feels like it's been going on for years, though, these big woman underdogs. But it's a dog or pass for me when we're talking money line. Like, am I going to lay a minus 270 on a 21-year-old fighter who she looked okay in her UFC debut. She had a tough fight. She lost in the third round to Natalia Silva, who's a complete stud. But, coming off a loss at 21 years old as one of the biggest favorites on the card in a clash of styles. Like when this fight is on the feet, the wrong fighter is favored, and it's not even close. Gabriela Fernandez is a much better striker than Teresa Bleda. Bleda needs to fight on the mat. She's a solid wrestler, has solid grappling. That's why you can make a case for her at 9,500, and I won't X her out in my 20 entry max. I put underweight tag when I am going to put it on the site, because if I have $300, I definitely want Arman Tsarukyan more. 100 less, we get to a guy later. Ronnie Lawrence, 800 less. I mean, like, there's multiple people in the 8K range, low 9K range that have just as much upside. And this woman's favorite is scaring me with Bleda. However, she's going to be very low owned, and it's a clash of styles. She does have wrestling upside. She does have grappling upside. Could say the same thing with Maverick last week, and it didn't work out at all. However, that's why I am keeping her in my pool. Low ownership as the wrestler in a clash of styles. I do get it from that perspective. But when it comes to a pick and DFS wise, like, I'm going to have more Fernandez in this fight. I'm picking Fernandez as the dog. Man, her striking really did impress me. Also coming off a loss herself, but she had power on the feet. Her hands were quick. She throws good kicks as well. And I'm not impressed with Bleda at all when it comes on the feet. Why the line is where it is, though. Fernandez was taken down multiple times in that fight. Didn't really show too much of a get-up game. Then taken down on the regional scene, too. Bleda definitely does have a path. I do think this is a fun fight, though. Give me the dog. Hopefully Fernandez has been working on that takedown defense. She can get up, make Bleda work. Maybe Bleda does gas. But, man, if this fight stays on the feet, you're getting a big dog, 6,700 for someone that should be favored. So, yeah, more Fernandez for me. I get the Bleda stuff, but I'm so scarred from these big women's favorites.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up playing too much Maverick last week, and that was painful to watch, because you're like,
So
all right,
painful.
she's a massive
You were dead
favorite.
2 minutes in.
Yeah, but it's like, somebody that I don't know the full ins and outs of all this stuff in UFC, but I'm like, all right, at some point, maybe she's a slow starter. She's got to turn it on. Like, too big of a favorite. Like, something's got to switch at some point. And then you get to round 3 and you're like, damn, like, she just got her ass kicked. She got her ass kicked. It wasn't better in any facet of the game.
No. Like, Carmi here, like, other than Jamie Malarkey, no one talking about big men's dog. I mean, you go to that fight, though. Malarkey won round 1. He was winning round 2. I mean, no, was he paying off his minus 500? No, but you could tell Malarkey, had 3 takedowns. They credited him with, like, his striking. He was getting the better of the exchanges. Like, he was still on his way to a big boy score and got caught in that one, where Maverick literally, I don't think, was better in any single area of mixed martial arts.
No, it was wild. All right, keep it moving here. Carlos Hernandez, Denny's Bonder, a cheaper price tag and favorite. So this is interesting. So he's 7,900 and he's minus essentially 140. Carlos Hernandez 8,300 plus 110 to win this fight. Basically a pick 'em to finish inside the distance. But yeah, this is definitely interesting from the perspective where the cheaper guy is a pretty decent favorite. What are we doing here in this one?
Yeah, like you said, two fights like this. The main event is the other fight. Vettori's AK, Cannoniers 8,200. Vettori's a slight favorite. This is the other one. So right in the mid-range, Denise Bondar 7,900 as a decent favorite, minus 140. Ownership, Bondar is going to be one of the highest owned guys on the slate, just because you get someone prices a dog as a favorite, and then you dig into the fight a little more. I mean, he's a primary wrestler. 16 of Bondar's 17 fights have ended inside the distance. High-paced guy, a solid grappler, solid wrestling. At least he was touted as all of this coming into the UFC. Didn't look good against Malcolm Gordon, like breaks his arm, a freak accident there. But Malcolm Gordon's not very good. Bondar didn't look good even before that injury, which is a little concern. But coming into the UFC, there's a good amount of hype on the guy. But yeah, I mean, break it down stylistically wise, Bondar, I think, is going to have success getting takedowns. Carlos Hernandez, he's an okay striker. He has solid grappling, 4 of his 8 wins by submission, but he just doesn't really have great takedown defense is what it looks like. And I think Bondar has success with takedowns. I think he maybe can submit Carlos Hernandez, rack up control time, maybe some ground and pound on the feet. I think it is pretty competitive. I think it's a high-paced fight, though, and why I love this fight, Bondar is going to be very chalky, like I mentioned. When it comes to it, I probably will have less Bondar. I'll probably end up underweight on the field to Bondar. Bondar comes in 40%. I doubt I have 40% of him. I'm definitely going to have some, though, 30, 35. Like, he can easily put up a big score. It's just in MMA, how I treat a lot of these leverage situations, I usually take the leverage side. I usually take the lower own side. Minus 140 at the end of the day still isn't too big of a favorite, especially talking MMA. We see dogs come through all the time. And if Bondar is 40% and Hernandez is 13%, like I just have to take that ownership discount. Hernandez wins 40% of lineups dead. And then you get the 13% Carlos Hernandez. You bump all those Bondar teams, and then he's very low owned himself. You can play a Tsarukyan, a main event fighter. You can eat more chalk around him. So just game theory wise and all of that, I'm going to end up with more of the dog that's priced higher in Carlos Hernandez, literally just because I think ownership's going to be too wide. People will chase the 7,900 more. But no, I think Bondar is solid. I think he'll be over-owned probably with his chance at the optimal. I mean, just say he wins and scores 80, who he's probably not going to be on the winner. I would bet against him being on. You take it, of course. You always take it, but you're talking 7,900, 40% owned fighter. I would take my chances and go lower that way. So Bondar not only needs a win, he does, I think, need a pretty solid score. Definitely can't get that. But talking ownership-wise, give me the leverage on Carlos Hernandez. He might be a fourth of the ownership. I'll be more overweight to the field on him than I will Bondar. However, if you're just making a pick, yeah, gun to my head, I'm picking Bondar since it's pretty clear the takedown upside is there, at least on paper. Hernandez struggled takedown defense. Bondar does his best work there. But yeah, we're playing a different game always than just gun to your head picking with ownership and taking first place unique or not trying to share with 80 people. You gotta look at ownership when it comes to MMA DFS.
Yeah, it's a clear spot where the cheaper guy that's favored is going to be like way higher owned, probably 3-1, maybe even 4-1. I mean, without digging into ownership at all, based on this scenario, I'd say this Bondar guy is probably mid to upper 30s in terms of ownership. Does that seem right?
Yeah, I think he's going to be about 40. But again, I wouldn't. Yeah, if it's upper 30s, something like that, we're around the same way. And I think Hernandez. Yeah. Maybe like 15 or so. Yeah, something. Yeah, we're on the same page. That.
I mean, just see these scenarios when they play out with these price tags. That's typically where these guys end up, and it's going to be somewhere in that range. It's probably 3-1 difference, maybe a little less than a 3-1 difference.
Maybe 555 is like 50-10 and something like that. Where the large field is 40-15 or something. We mainly talking the large field $18. I think it is this week on it, but yeah, you go up to high stakes like the $1,000 with 10 people or something, like you could be seeing 90-10 if you're the
probably 80 to 90% owned. Yeah, this guy for sure. I mean, everyone just gets on that train, so it makes sense. Well, yeah, we'll see. Large field stuff. It definitely makes sense to keep Hernandez and get overweight. I think on him. Do us that favor, guys. As we said, show is free. It's going to remain free. So give us some support. Hit the like. Hit the subscribe. We're trying to get to that 1,500. Subscriber number, close, very close. So subscribe, like, and we'll continue to bring you guys this content for free on a weekly basis. Got about 8 fights left. Christian, all right, this is one of the names, Quinones, and then Ho Kang. I'm just not even going with the first name, Ho Kang. Quinones is a minus 163 favorite. Another fight that is right there, basically a pick 'em to finish inside the distance. 8,800 for Quinones, 7,400 for Ho Kang. What are your thoughts here in this one?
Yeah, pretty solid fight. We saw a lot of line movement in this one. Ho Kang opened the favorite actually, minus 180 to Quinones plus 155 on the way back, and the odds pretty much flipped. Quinones sitting like minus 155 now. I think the line movement is a lot of recency bias going into it. Christian Quinones coming off a big win back in September for him. UFC debut, fought Khalil Taha. Taha has a great chin. He had UFC experience. Quinones making his debut. Man, Quinones came in and he just starts Khalil Taha in the first round. Looked pretty solid, but we only got to see him for a couple minutes in that fight. Especially when Taha, he was on a 2-fight losing streak, got cut after that fight from the UFC. Don't think Khalil Taha was really that good, so it's hard to put too much stock into that fight. But Quinones definitely looked solid. He's 18-3, 27 years old. Majority of 10 of his wins have come by knockout. The thing is, he's getting a big step up in competition. Hardest fight to date by a mile in Ho Kang. 35-year-old who's been around the UFC for a minute now. 7-3 in the UFC, 18-9 pro record. Has fought the much better competition and coming off a big win himself against Dana Bakary, where he landed 100 significant strikes in that fight, won a unanimous decision, and he's known for being low volume. Like, he only averages 2.99 significant strikes per 15 minutes. Again, realize those numbers. He's been in the UFC for a little while now, so some of those, I don't believe he's that low volume, but that 100 significant strikes was an outlier. He does his best work on the mat, though. Averages 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. Sometimes it's irritating watching him. It's like, dude, take him down. Easiest path to victory. Even last fight, thought it'd be the easiest path to victory. He decides not to. But, man, his striking, it looks improved. Can mix in takedowns. And when it's on the mat, 11 of his 18 wins by submission. It's a dog or pass for me in this spot for sure. I think the line movement has gone too far. I'm still not completely sold on Quinones. Again, making his toughest fight to date right here. Is a good size favorite at $8,800 in a fight slightly favored to go to decision. Sure, he might be able to win. His volume is solid. He has been taken down in multiple fights in the past, though. His grappling looks okay, but I think there's wrestling upside here for Kang. Maybe even can submit him. And on the feet, I don't know why Quinones is minus 170, minus 160. I think it's more of a coin flip fight that way. So, yeah, I think this line's just off. If anything, I think the wrong fighter is favored. Give me the guy who's fought better competition, guy who's been here in the UFC. I think he has the advantage on the mat, and I'm really not convinced Quinones is that much of a favorite on the feet. So, yeah, I'll be underweight on Quinones. I'll have plenty of Kang.
I like how this is shaping up. A lot of dogs in play to get us our 9,800 guy, which we're going to get to here in a few fights. So yeah, I'm in with Ho Kang with you here. And plus 130 at $7,400, like that's good value when you're just looking at Vegas odds. I mean, typically these fights are closer to 8,300, 7,900, 8,200, 8K flat. You have a pretty wide spread here for a guy that is only plus 130. I mean, that's pretty damn close to a pick 'em as well.
And what that equates to, like you're saying, is you can leave more salary on cards like this. Now, it does get tricky.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you're leaving 1,500, you're saying 8,500 fighter is going to outscore Arman Tsarukyan. Like, it gets a little tougher that way. But, hey, I mean, Tsarukyan can go out there, finish the fight in a minute, 5 seconds, get 97. And not be on the optimal by any means. So there's definitely paths to that way. Like you're saying, with a lot of the Pauga, not that big of a dog. Kang, not that big of a dog. Some of these other ones, main event, only 8,200, 8K. That's why I think this is a lot better card for DFS, having a chance to leave salary, not hold hands with as many people. Whereas last week, multiple dogs were over minus 300, or multiple favorites over minus 300. Pricing seemed more right. It was tougher to leave a lot of salary on that card. So, yeah, like you said, we think we see dogs come through, and anytime you think their dogs come through, you can leave more salary, and that's what Vegas. A lot of short dogs, big dog, or pricing big dogs that are short dogs.
It's really interesting. I mean, we were just a lot of minus 250 or under favorites besides the one minus 1,000. So it's just they're gonna have to. And the one thing that DraftKings refuses to do, which I wish they'd kind of do it, like price guys the same price. Like you don't have to just they won't do it, but just do it if it warrants it. But
FanDuel,
this is a card I think
FanDuel does way better pricing. That's a one thing and it sucks because you want to go put $12 in the main, it's not even GPPs. You can really fill. Yeah. But they do a better job for sure when it comes to pricing, and building rosters is always harder over there.
And it's like the Tsarukyan dude, the guy he's facing, make him 5K or something.
5K, yes, please.
Yeah, be way more dynamic. Yeah, with the pricing. They're just not very dynamic with the pricing at all, and leads to a lot of overlap and duplicate lineups, and you're forced to duplicate. I mean, it's makes it impossible to be unique, but maybe one day. I mean, it's getting more popular for sure.
And at the end of the day, like you said, if everyone wants to play the chalk of all the chalk lineup and hold hands with 200 people, it is a little tougher to get different, but you can always play Carlos Hernandez, don't play Tsarukyan. There's always ways to get different in the highest variant sport out there in MMA. So, I wish they changed pricing a little bit, but there's always an edge. There's definitely an edge right now in MMA with how many people hold hands with similar teams.
All right, Alejandro Costa, Jimmy Flick, Costa, I guess. Costa's 9,400. He's minus 250. We just kind of talked about it. Flick is, plus 200, $6,800 price tag on DraftKings. This fight is minus 350 to finish inside the distance. So Vegas is really liking this one to not go to the judges. Title, what are your thoughts here on this fight? I mean, big inside the distance number, minus 350.
Yeah, Costa's going to walk through him. I think knock him out in the first round. Jimmy Flick's as one-dimensional as it gets. He's a grappler. The dude is a legit grappler. One kill, BJJ, can throw up flying triangles, can throw up anything. You name it. He wants to fight on the mat. He doesn't care if he's on his back, whatever it may be. But, man, outside of his grappling, his striking stinks. His cardio stinks. His chin stinks. The dude retired for a little while, came back to the sport. I have a lot of concerns with Jimmy Flick. If he gets it to the mat, he can submit anyone. But you're talking about Costa. Man, what a brutal matchup it is for Flick. Costa's also a black belt in BJJ, also a good wrestler himself. Like, even if it's on the mat, I think Costa will be on top. I don't think Jimmy Flick has any success getting takedowns. So if it is on the mat, I think Costa is the one on top, but just scoring some top control, maybe a takedown, that would be too. Not the smartest path to victory. Again, I don't think Flick will submit him there. If you want to play Jimmy Flick, he's always live for that. But, man, I think Costa keeps it on the feet. I think his grappling is good enough if it does hit the mat. And when it's on the feet, Flick is awful. Costa definitely impressed me with his striking. The pace, the pressure, good power. I think he walks down Jimmy Flick. I think he knocks him out. Flick can't take a punch. Not even sure he can fight for 15 minutes. Yeah, it's Costa for me in this one all day.
All right, we're halfway home. Please do us that favor. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Muslim Salikhov and Nicholas Dalby. Salikhov is minus 188 favorite. He's 9,200. Fight is plus 120 to finish inside the distance. So this one is slightly leaning towards going to the judges. In my eyes, again, it's going to be a fight where you're going to need to tell me these guys are hitting the mat, and it's going to be a high energy fight in order for me to play Salikhov or Salikhov, however you pronounce his name. What is this one looking like here?
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you that, and I'm not going to really be playing much of this fight either. Like you said, It's slightly favored to go to decision. Again, plus 120 is not crazy by any means. I think Salikhov could knock out Nicholas Dalby. I wouldn't be shocked. But at 9,200, I think this fight primarily plays out on the feet. Salikhov definitely isn't taken to the mat, just a striker. Dalby has mixed in some takedowns in the past, but he's not a great wrestler by any means. He's kind of like Pauga, push it against the fence, make it grimy, try and peel you down. But Dalby does. I don't think either of these guys are great. Salikhov definitely the better fighter. He's more dangerous on the feet. But you look at volume, Salikhov lands 3.3 significant strikes per minute. Dalby lands 3.74. I think it stays at range. I think Salikhov can't keep it at range, can't keep it on the feet. At 9,200, it's like Bukauskas. You pretty much, I think, need a first-round knockout to have a chance at the optimal. And if it gets to the second round, even if he gets a knockout there, still probably isn't on the optimal. Of course, you're telling me he gets a second-round knockout, I'm going to play a lot more Salikhov than I'm already going to have. But I think this fight goes to decision. I think it's boring, plays out at range. Pitter-patter, Salikhov lands the better shots, and he probably wins a decision. So, yeah, you need to fade some fights on this card. It's tough finding confident fades on this card. Like you said, plus 150, the shortest odds are the most likely fights go to decisions, only plus 150, which is not a lot at all, which I expect to see some big scores on this card. But, yeah, a striking match, low volume, two guys I don't think's great. If it beats me, it beats me, but I won't have much.
Yep. If it beats us, we move on to the next slate. That's the beauty of
next week's a good one. Next week's a good. Yeah, I mean, it's hurtful. It's round 3 of the final. It's Jacksonville. So I was knocked out round 1. A little bittersweet that I'll be watching from home and not there. But good card. It's a good card. A lot of fights right now. It's live in Jacksonville. And whoever's out there, whoever's got it. If anyone out there has a seat, yeah, good luck to you next week. That'll be fun. Yeah. But next week's a good card.
Yeah, definitely good luck out there. I have a feeling we're going to like this one. Manuel Torres, Nicholas Mata, Torres, minus 188 favorite. He's 8,900 on DraftKings. Mata is 7,300 on DraftKings. But another minus 350 to finish inside the distance. Price tag's a little bit cheaper as well on the favorite here at 8,900. Are my suspicions correct? Are you interested in this one?
Yeah, your suspicions are correct. No doubt about that. Anytime you see the name Manuel Torres, you are going to want to be jamming both sides of his fight. He is only 1-0 in the UFC, but 13-2 pro record. 14 of his 15 fights have ended in the first round. Not even just finished, have ended in the first round. This dude is a wild man. He comes out there looking to swing, a lot of forward pressure, a lot of power in his hands, good volume, doesn't care about his cardio because he doesn't think the other guy will be able to stand there for more than 5 minutes with Love this fight. I'm taking Manuel Torres in this one. Nicholas Mata has been knocked out in the past. He came coming off a win against Van Camp. Van Camp looked so bad in that fight. Jim Miller knocked out Nicholas Mata. Mata's a good striker too, though. He has power in his hands, a little lower volume than Torres, but Torres puts himself in 50-50 exchanges. He trusts his chin to hold up, which his chin definitely looks to be better than Mata's. I think he has more power than Mata too. I think the pressure, the aggressiveness, I think Torres gets another first-round knockout here. However, 7,300 Nicholas Mata. Who knows how Torres will look if this fight somehow hits the third round, somehow gets past 1.5 rounds. Torres puts himself, he gives his opponents chances to hit him. He trusts his chin. He trusts that he'll fire back and hurt you more, but maybe Mata does clip him, knocks him out. We've seen Drew Dober knocked out. We've seen plenty of guys with unreal chins, unbreakable chins go to sleep. Mata's going to have his chances. There's no doubt about that. I think it stays on the feet, but yeah, Torres is going to make this a fun fight where I think the winner scores well. Sign me up for this one, but I think Torres gets another first-round knockout.
Yeah, and the price, like I said, a little bit cheaper than those, mid 9K guys. $300 cheaper than the last guy. $500.
Like even if this was Bleda and like Torres was 9,500, Bleda was 8,900. Bleda's not the best example because I do see her upside. Like I would still like Torres more in a vacuum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't care 8,900, 9,500. The upside is all I care about, and you'll get that here. Both sides.
Yep. All right, 4 more to go. Pat Sabatini, Lucas Almeida. Sabatini, a minus 188 favorite. He is 9,100. Almeida is 7,100. This fight is minus 175 to finish inside the distance. So another fight where, not likely to go to the judges. Just, man, this is shaping up to me, just in my eyes, just going through this first glance. It's going to be a high-scoring slate. So, I mean, when you go to build your teams, you need to keep that mindset because this is a pretty good situation based on Vegas, this fight. But we've talked about some other really, really good situations. So how does this fight stack up against some of those others?
Yeah, it's right up there with them. It's another great fight. You have a clash of styles. You have a primary wrestler in Pat Sabatini, averages 3.75 takedowns per 15 minutes. Against a guy in Lucas Almeida who very well, good all-around fighter. Like I'm saying, clash of styles, which means he's a primary striker, which he is, but he still has good BJJ. The thing is, his takedown defense can be a little questionable, can be taken down, but he's shown an okay get-up game in this one. Why I love this fight is it's Pat Sabatini. He has to fight a perfect fight for 15 minutes, which is why when I'm gonna make a pick, I'm taking the dog in this one. I mean, man, like it's going to be tough. You're going to be nervous for 15 minutes watching this fight because anytime it is at distance, Pat Sabatini's been hurt multiple times. Jamal Emmers pretty much had him out. Damon Jackson knocks him out. Lucas Almeida hits like a truck. When it's on the feet, his Muay Thai is nice. Almeida can knock out Sabatini at any second it's on the feet. However, if Sabatini does win this fight, you're going to see plenty of takedowns. You're going to see a lot of top control. Anytime you see that with anytime wrestlers get takedowns, get top control, win a decision, like their ceiling is as big as anyone's on this one. So you can't ignore this fight. Sabatini wins is from wrestling, trains out Enzo Gracie in Philly, Sean Brady, Jeremiah Wells. He trains with great wrestlers over there as well, getting in all the good time. However, if he can't get Almeida down though, or even before, let's just say it's like Damon Jackson fight. Sabatini can't even shoot a takedown. He's already knocked out before it even starts. Big score that way too. So yeah, I'm very excited for this fight. I'm taking Almeida. Someone in chat, Pauga or Almeida, if had to choose. I think Almeida has more upside in this one, so I lean him. It definitely might be tilting. Again, that's why I play so many lineups in MMA. Like, I can't just pick one guy and Almeida knocks him out. Then I have Sabatini, or I pick the wrestler or I pick Almeida and then Sabatini goes and wrestles him for 15 minutes or whatever. Give me both sides of this fight. One of the better fights to target, as most classic styles are that are expected to finish inside the distance. But yeah, get Almeida or Pauga, definitely chasing ceiling in this one. Almeida can knock him out at any point. Don't think the same with Pauga.
Yeah, so 7,100 for Almeida. He's plus 150. Like, again, we talked about it in previous fights. That's a very appealing price tag for a guy that isn't that far off. Plus 150 is nothing. So
usually that's like a 7,900 fighter plus 150.
Yeah. It's just the dynamic of this slate now that we're going through and talking about it. That's what and it goes back to the same conversation with DK pricing. They refuse to price guys the same way, so they kind of rank them like a confidence type ranking thing, and it results in this. So, man, I really like Almeida as well at 7,100. I mean, the things that you can do with your lineup with some of these low 7K guys, I think going to be your lineups could look very nice if you can get comfortable playing those guys. 3 more to go. Christian, Leroy, Duncan, Armin, Petrosyan. How do you pronounce this? Petrosyan. Armin Petrosyan. Duncan is minus 150 in this fight. It is minus 115 to finish inside the distance. Duncan 8,600. Other dude is 7,600. What do we got in this one?
Yeah, another solid fight. I don't like this one as much as the Sabatini fight or the Torres fight, but I like the main card a little more than the prelims. Like, I like it way more than the Bukauskas fight, like it more than the Bleda fight, like it more than Salikhov and stuff. So it's minus 115 to finish. You do get 2 primary strikers in this one though, but 8,600, 7,600. So Leroy Duncan's making a second UFC or walk to the UFC, coming off a win, I guess. I mean, it is a win against Dusko Todorovic. It was the Leon Edwards Usman card in England, and it was Todorovic grappling exchange against the fence early in the fight, first round. His knee just gives. I think he tore his ACL, maybe other ligament damage in his knee, but you really couldn't get you didn't learn anything about Leroy Duncan in his UFC debut. However, coming in to that fight, he's still highly touted as the champion at LFA, 6 of 8 wins to come by knockout, some spinning techniques, some flying knees. Like, the dude is a very dangerous striker. But man, you're telling me he's a minus 150 favorite against Armin Petrosyan, who this is going to be his 4th walk to the UFC octagon, but he has every single fight he's in. It's, will the other guy take him down? Is the other guy a wrestler? Because if he's not, they're usually going to be in for a hard time against Petrosyan. One of the best one-dimensional strikers, lands a lot of volume, over 6 significant strikes per minute. He did lose his only loss UFC debut in the UFC was Caio Bahaio, taken down 3 times, controlled for 10 minutes in that fight. But Caio is a complete stud. Was taken down in Contender Series, was taken down against Gregory Rodriguez, was taken down against AJ Dobson, but his get-up game was good in all of those, and he did win and land over 100 significant strikes in those 2 UFC wins and knocked out the guy in the first round in Contender Series. So if it's on the feet, Petrosyan is as dangerous as it gets, throws a lot of volume. 6 of 8, his 8 wins have come by knockout too. And Leroy Duncan just really hasn't shown. He's had like 2 takedowns, I think, in his LFA fights, but he's not a grappler. He's not a wrestler, dangerous striker. So I think these guys are going to meet in the middle. It's going to be a car crash. I'll take the dog money. I'll take the guy that throws a lot more volume, that's a little more proven in the UFC. Definitely will have some Duncan. The dude's upside is definitely there. He has a ton of power. But, man, if this fight's going to stay on the feet for 15 minutes, I think the wrong guy's favored. Give me the guy that I've seen strike with better competition more than Duncan. I think a little more unknown. So, yeah, I think he throws more volume. I'll say Petrosyan by decision. Wouldn't be surprised to see a KO on either side in this one, but Petrosyan by decision. It's a dog or pass for me.
Yeah, another fight where the dog's in play. I'd definitely like to hear that. I mean, roster construction should be interesting this week. I mean, it seems like even potentially a week where you can leave some money on the table if you want. I mean, you always can, obviously, but maybe, that path has more of a chance this week is what I'm getting at. Next fight, I think, is going to be simple. Tsarukyan versus Silva. Tsarukyan is minus 1,000, which is a number you typically do not see. Very rarely pops up. He is 9,800. The fight is minus 350 to finish inside the distance. But just as much as we can get and do it that way type thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is like, it comes in the game theory and stuff there. Like if you're playing Denise Bondar, you're playing Ronnie Lawrence, you're playing one of Marvin Vettori, like if you're playing all the chalk, I don't think playing Tsarukyan's the way to go. He's going to be 55, 60% owned, going to be the highest guy in the slate. However, I said take your 100-plus points and move on. There's enough dogs I like on this card. I mean, I've picked plenty of dogs and think there are a lot of live dogs, even if I didn't pick them on this card. So I think we have the salary to get to them. I'll take my 100-plus and move on. However, I'm not going to have 100%. I'm not going to do anything that way because he can win in a minute and 5 seconds, score 97. He can win maybe in the second. Maybe he scores 108 points at 9,800. However, if other dogs don't come through, even like we think we do, but just say they don't win, pricing gets a lot more narrow. And then Ronnie Lawrence is 1,100 cheaper. Manuel Torres is 900 cheaper. Leroy Duncan is 1,200 cheaper. Like there's other people in the high 8K and low 9K range that have a lot of upside and really the same ceiling as Tsarukyan. But I'm just making cases of why you won't click that button. When it comes to it, though, minus 1,000s, you don't see it every day. Like Joaquim Silva, props to him for taking this fight. The reason we get this is no one wants to fight Arman Tsarukyan. They're ranked ahead of him in the rankings. No one's signing the dotted line. They're ranked below him. You ain't beating Arman Tsarukyan more than likely. So you just can't find a fight. He's still young, 25, wants to stay active. Maybe he's 26, one of the two. Wants to stay active, so he's like, yeah, just give me anyone. He's a primary wrestler, too, which makes it a little harder to fade. You feel better if they're a primary striker. Hopefully you get out of the second round. But now I think we see takedowns, ground and pound. Probably looks like that Joel Alvarez fight where he absolutely dominated them. But, yeah, he's going to be 60%. He's in a tier of his own. I'll have plenty. But I'm not clicking the lock button by any means. Like Sean V is talking about Bleda. Absolutely loves Bleda at 9,500 for the ownership. That's why I'm going to keep her in my pool, because if I am eating Vettori, Bondar, other chalk, you got to make a pivot somewhere. I don't think it's the craziest thing to drop down to a lower owned person in the high 9K range. But, yeah, I mean, I didn't even spend any time on how I think this fight's going to go because of minus 1,000 and literally minus 300 just for Tsarukyan to finish inside the distance. I'm not going to tell you anything that Vegas isn't telling you. But, yeah, he'll be high owned, rightfully so. I think there's enough dogs on this card that come through to make playing him fine. I'll have plenty, but it's not. I'm not hitting the lock button on any of these guys on this card.
Not saying that he's going to be low owned because this guy is going to be the super high owned, but do you think that the 9,800 price tag brings it down a little bit, or do you think people are like, no, he's minus 1,000. I'm playing him.
Yeah, it's because of the nature of this card. Like if it was last week's card where a lot of favorites were over minus 250 and dogs were tougher to come by when salary looked tough, I think that this week, I think it'll be 60. I think it would have been like 45. But because Pauga is plus 155 at 7,200, Kang is plus 135 at 7,400, Almeida is plus 155 at 7,100, Fernandez 6,700, only plus 200. Because of how short the odds are for these really cheap dogs, I think people are going to realize that Vettori, Cannonier, 8,200, 8K. Bondar is a favorite at 7,900. You know what I'm saying? I think there's enough value and people realize that, and enough dogs and stuff to come through that are going to come through that people will jam Tsarukyan and think it's a card you can do so. So I'm thinking like 60% for him.
Okay. All right. Last fight, main event, Jared Cannonier versus Marvin Vettori. Kind of talked about this a little bit earlier where the cheaper guy is the favorite, and that is Vettori. He is 8K, and he is minus 120. Not a big favorite, but minus 120 versus Cannonier, who is 8,200. This is basically a pick 'em to go the distance. Two big names, the biggest names on this card. What are your thoughts here on this fight?
Yeah, man, it was tough. Beginning of the week, I was planning on being underweight on this fight on both guys. With 14 fights, a lot of closely lined fights, I thought dogs were going to come through. A lot of upside in a lot of these fights. I thought this fight was going to be over-owned. Everyone loves clicking a 5-round main event, especially at 8,200 8K. However, we lose 2 fights. It makes it a little harder to feel comfortable being underweight when in 95, 100, they have 2 extra rounds to work with. It is a close fight. Like, it's harder to fade now for me or be underweight now. So this is where it differs, though, when we're talking betting and we're talking DFS for me. So right away, like you said, Vettori, the slight favorite, he is $200 cheaper, though. Cannonier, $200 more, and a slight dog. So I think ownership, Vettori, I think, is going to come in probably a little above 40%, low 40s, something like that. Whereas Cannonier, 30%, like even maybe high 20s, low 30s, something like that. So I think Vettori is already going to be over 10% higher owned. However, I think that's rightfully so because you dive in to both these guys' styles. Cannonier does not fit DK scoring very well, but whereas Vettori fits it very well. Cannonier is just a striker, does not take it to the mat, semi-low volume, lands 4 significant strikes per minute, but he's only scored over 100 plus once since 2017. Whereas you look at Marvin Vettori, he's a wrestler, man, or at least he should wrestle in a lot of fights. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he does. I think he's going to wrestle in this fight. I don't think you want to stand at range, but Cannonier for 25 minutes. I think Vettori realizes that. Yeah, I think Vettori does throw more volume on the feet too. And the dude has an iron chin. He's never been knocked out. The dude, it feels like you can't knock him out. Cannonier can knock out anyone. He's a grown-ass man, so I'm not putting that jinx on him. But even if Cannonier gets a third-round knockout, might only score 80 points, 85. And at that ownership, especially with the total ownership of this fight, I think there's paths where Cannonier wins a decision, a knockout later, and still isn't on the optimal, which makes me not love him. Then you go to Vettori. I'm picking Cannonier to win this fight. I'm saying he mainly keeps it on the fight and wins it that way. But in DFS-wise, Vettori is it feels like the way better DFS play because if he does win, I think it is multiple takedowns. I think it's plenty of control time. He does throw more volume on the feet too, even though he has no power coming that way. Will there be a lot of power coming his way? The more I'm talking through it, though, and why I was telling myself beginning of the week, Cannonier wins this fight by decision, doesn't score very well. This whole fight busts at 80% combined ownership or whatever it may be. Now, again, I'll take an 85, a 90. Like, I don't want to completely fade that in the mid-tier with only 12 fights. 40%, 42%, something like that for Vettori, about 30% for Cannonier. I hate doing it, but I'll probably be a little under on Vettori, maybe even a little under on Cannonier, but I'll be somewhere around the field on both because I do think, even though I think Cannonier wins, I don't love his upside for DFS. It's all we care about is ceiling. As far as Vettori, I'm leaning that he loses, and he's going to be high owned, especially for someone I think will lose. However, if he does win, which he is slightly favored to, I'd have a hard time seeing him not on the optimal. Just his fighting style. Sean V says Vettori scores well in 5-rounders. Yeah, control time, takedowns, volume. Like, he has all those advantages over Cannonier except the knockout ability. So picking Cannonier probably will end up with a little more Vettori in DFS, but I definitely will have plenty of fight fades in this $18. Since I do think the fight probably is a little over-owned at the end of the day. But it's a tough main event, man. It really is. I was hoping we had 14 fights so I could have been way under on this main event, but it's not the case.
Yeah, so this is where Hoop gets to interject and offer some advice because these are two guys that I actually know and I've seen fight. All right. I think Vettori is just the clear play here. I think he's gonna smoke his ass. Like, I don't think Cannonier is very good. I've watched him fight. I think he's fraudulent. And then you throw in the fact that it's just not a good his style is not good for DraftKings DFS, scoring like one bit. Like, if you like Cannonier, just like go bet him. Like, I mean, I'm going to play both these guys. Don't get me wrong, because it's the 5-round fight here and all that. But I will have much more of Vettori. I think he's like the clear play on DraftKings, and I know he's going to be popular by far. He's favored.
Yeah. I was saying maybe I'm saying 230. Maybe it's like 45-20. What if I told you 45%, 27%? Does that change at all, or is it still Vettori?
I just don't. I think Cannonier freaking sucks. Like, I'm gonna run my teams, and I'm gonna see how much am I get. I don't want to be.
But you probably won't get. I mean, because you're spending 200 more for him, so you're probably you're gonna kind of have to make yourself when you put in ownership.
Yeah, I'd feel comfortable playing a lot of Vettori, I guess is what I'm getting at. And I'm probably gonna do it. I mean, yeah, that was a good point too. The 5-round stuff, like he put up 122.
He had like 190 significant strikes against Pauga Costa. He has Vettori's the way better scorer.
How's Cannonier's takedown defense?
I think it's okay. I think it's better. A lot of people haven't really tried to take him down. Like you go through his last fights, it's been striker. You do get a 10-year age gap, which I always prefer the younger fighter. Vettori 29, Cannonier 39, but I don't know, man. I've been a little impressed with Cannonier. I'm not Vettori. I don't know. He should have lost to Roman Dolidze, no doubt about that. This fights that you've watched with Vettori, it's like, dude, take him down, easiest path to victory. Yeah. Dude doesn't shoot for any takedowns.
That is the most frustrating. That is one of the most frustrating parts of like this sport, when you know the guy has an advantage in a certain area and they like refuse to go there. Like it's so super bad.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm picking I don't think Vettori's finishing Cannonier. I like Cannonier more on the feet. Like you said, we're talking DFS and stuff. That's why I really wanted to go underweight on this fight earlier in the week. It's always going to get exposure. If Cannonier wins a decision, which I was picking him for, there's a good chance this fight's not on the optimal. And we talked a lot about these other fights, prelims, main card. Like these dogs have just as much upside as some of these favorites too. So we talked a long time about this main event. Long story short, Vettori, cheaper fighter. He's the favorite. His fighting style fits DK and all that more. Yeah, more we talk about it. Vettori, I wouldn't be surprised, like 45%, Cannonier 27, something like that. But probably rightfully so. Because if Vettori wins, he probably is going to be optimal decision or finish. Cannonier wins, you can't necessarily say that same thing.
Man, I'm actually pretty excited for this card. It seems like it should be fun for DFS. I mean, the scoring upside seems massive, and that's always, that always makes it fun, for sure. You don't want those guys that are going to come out there and win and get like 65 fantasy points. I don't see it. I don't see it on this card. So it's exciting. All our content will start to go up. Obviously, there's already some. We have a core report, 5 different cores, our rankings, tier rankings based on DraftKings pricing. That'll be up tonight, tomorrow morning. And then the slate plan from Title himself, where he goes through fight by fight, puts in some notes, and then his overall strategy for building teams. If you're not a member, come on over to shipitnation.com. $50 right now, or $599 annually gets you everything on the website. We're continuing to add on more sports. We're improving our current product. You'll love it. Please join us. Title, any final thoughts on this card or anything else before we get on out of here?
Yeah, no, like you said, I think it'll be a fun one too. I love seeing 14 fights, then we get 13, then we get 12. Just please keep 12 fights. Like I mentioned last week, 11, the huge difference between 12 to 11 fights. Looks like a pretty good DFS card too. Yeah, ownership will be concentrated. A lot of fun fights. I think we see a lot of big scores. And I think there's plenty of multiple dogs that come through, which means you can leave more salary than some slates. Just don't be holding hands. Don't play Tsarukyan, Bandar, Vettori, leave 50K in a large field GPP. That is negative EV. But yeah, we appreciate all you guys hanging out. John Kelly in here does great work himself. Michael in here, Carmi. Appreciate all you guys hanging out with us. Like button always helps. But yeah, man, I'm pumped for this card. All my content for MMA always will be up on Friday, the day before. So most of it is done. I want to put it up all on the site at once. So that'll be up in a few hours, something maybe less. I'll take everyone. I'll take the MMA chat and let everyone know when. But yeah, hopefully you run a little better, Hoop, and don't get a head clash to ruin you.
Yeah, I'm due. So yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. Good luck if you are playing the slate. It should be a fun one. Get on over to shipitnation.com to get all our content. For Title, I'm Hoop. Let's ship it.